Hello, everybody. My name is Carly Hoffman. I'm a writer, reader, and soon to be author of my debut novel, Providence. I love to write, like a lot, and I kind of want to make it my job. And so I have this YouTube channel where I'm going to be posting writing tips, writing updates, book updates. What else? Maybe some book reviews. Basically anything bookish. Like, if you like it, probably I'm probably gonna talk about it, just be honest. So if that sounds interesting, you should totally subscribe because I don't know, it could be fun. We might have some fun here. We're gonna have some fun here. So yeah, subscribe, join the channel. You can also follow me on Instagram at Carly Hoffman Author. I'll have a link down below because I'm a professional. Totally. But anyway, today's video is about writing your first draft, which, as a soon-to-be author, I have so much experience with. But seriously, I have written a first draft, and I've written a second draft, and a third draft, and I'm starting a fourth draft, and I'm also going to be starting a first draft of my second book, because my debut novel is a part of a trilogy. Fun fact. Anyway, writing a first draft can be scary. So I figured, why not make a video with some tips and tricks and some things not to do that I did, Let's get to it. Okay, so I figured I should split this video up into a couple different sections. First off, some tips. Second off, focus on outlining, because I know we all like to imagine ourselves being a pantser, and some of us are. I thought I was. I kind of am. I think everybody kind of is, in a sense, but outlining helps a lot, and I have found that out the hard way. So we'll have a section on that, and then we're also going to be talking about what not to do, which is basically what I did. Okay, so the first part would be tips, right? Well, we're going to start off with that. And one tip I have, just write. I know it sounds kind of stupid and kind of like obvious, but writing the book that you have an idea for can be really intimidating. I know, like, I had the idea and I was like, okay, I want to write it, but what do I do? And I mean, just write it. It's your story. Nobody else is going to tell it. If they do, it's not going to be nearly as good as yours or the same, because nobody has the exact same idea. Yours is going to be unique and special. And so you should write it. Like, just do it. Don't worry about other people reading it, because right now, you're the only one that's going to see this. Actually, that's another tip. Don't let people read your first draft. Don't. It's going to be messy. It's going to be incomplete. And it's kind of your thing. Like, your first draft should just kind of be yours. I mean, you can share it with people if you want to. And if you're comfortable with that, that is perfectly fine. But you don't have to. The first draft doesn't even have to see the light of day outside of your bedroom if you just want to write it in there and just, like, nobody else knows about it. So just write, because you have a story to tell and we want to hear it. Readers, family, friends, the world needs to hear your story. And that sounds cheesy, but it's true. Okay, and tip number 3, if you get stuck at a part in your book and you don't really know, like you're stuck on a scene, you're like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? Just skip it. I know that might be a little controversial, but you can always go back later and fill it in. So just add a little filler. Like, if you have a general idea but you just don't know what to do, general idea, like something happens here, and then just move on, because that can be figured out in your second draft. You don't need to figure it out on the first one. The first draft can be full of holes and it can be incomplete. You just need to get a basic, like, just get as much as you just want something. You want to get the story out of you. You got to get it out of your head and onto paper, because from there you can develop it and learn and just flesh out the story way more than you would have if you just stopped or you didn't write it. So, and that kind of takes us into outlining, because outlining, I think, it's very important. I didn't think it was important. Well, it's really helpful, I should say. Like, we all like to believe and like to think that we're a pantser, right? Like I said, but we're not. Not all of us are. But we have outlines, and those help us. And do not sleep on outlines because they help. And there are many ways to outline. There are many different processes of outlining, I guess I should say. And everybody's can be unique, different. Like, do what helps you. What I did, so okay, with my first book, I didn't outline, and I was completely lost, right? So, but I've outlined my second and third book, and what I did was I outlined by chapter. And so I was like, okay, chapter 1, I want this to happen. Chapter 2, I want this to happen. And I kind of just kept going until the story kind of finished itself. And then I look back, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And then now from there, I can go and change and develop, and then I can start on my first draft. So outlining before your first draft is really helpful. What was that? But yes, outlining. If you don't want to outline by chapter, you can outline by idea. So if you have like an idea of something you want to happen, then write it here, and then you have another idea, so then you write it here, and then you have another, and then you just kind of like figure it all out. Just getting your ideas onto paper and then organizing them help. And then that helps you with your first draft, because your first draft isn't going to be clean, and neither is your outline. But together, they help you get closer to like a more thought out idea. So when you move on to your second draft, it'll be a lot easier. And also, the thing that an outline helps with the most is knowing how your story ends. Because when I started my first book, I didn't know how the story was going to end. I think I knew how the first book was going to end, but I knew it wasn't going to just be a one book. It was going to be a trilogy, and I had no idea how the story was going to end. And outlining really helped. Like, I know where the story's going. I know what needs to happen, and I can develop my characters more because I know what they're going to go through. Whereas writing on a whim, you don't really know what's coming, and so you're just kind of like, oh, we'll do this, and sometimes it just doesn't really work out. And so knowing how your story ends and also knowing how it starts, outlines help with a lot, because once you get those two things, the inside just kind of comes more naturally. Okay, and for the final part of this video, what not to do when you're writing your first draft. And basically, what I did. Don't edit. Do not edit your first draft. And by that I mean don't be going back while you're writing the first draft and editing as you go. Because that just makes you take 4 years to write a first draft, which is what I did. I started my book freshman year of high school. I finished it my senior year in January. Almost 4 years. And it shouldn't have taken that long, because a first draft can get done very quickly, because the word count doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not supposed to be perfect. So if you're trying to make your first draft perfect, you're never going to finish your first draft. And I knew this, and I was like, oh yeah, but it's fine. I'm not going to do that. 4 years later, I did that. Crazy. I'm just surprised that I actually finished my draft, because most people don't. You'll get discouraged, you'll give up, and I did stop for like a year or two. Like, I just stopped writing. Now, I did get busy with school, and I had a social life, which was crazy, but you know, don't go back and edit your first draft, because it does not have to be perfect. And like I said, nobody else has to see it. It's just for you. And along with that, don't go back and reread it until you're done, because when you do, you're going to be like, oh, I don't like that. I want to change that. And you're going to be more tempted to go back and edit. So as you're drafting your first draft, just write. Don't go back and reread. Just keep writing. Now, if you forget something, I think it's okay to go back and reread. Like, you're like, oh, did this happen? Then you can be like, oh, yeah, that did happen. That way, it stays continuous. But don't be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to go reread what I've written so far just to see. Don't do that until the end. Just don't, And then another what not to do. Don't not have a plan. You have to have a plan. I'm recording. You can come in. You need to at least know where your story's going to end, which I kind of mentioned this with outlining. You just need to know how the book is going to end, or know how the story is going to end, because if you don't, then you're going to get lost. You're going to be like, oh, well, they can do this and this, and then that's not really going to work well with the story. It might not work well with the plot. It might be useless scenes, even if you love it. It might not, and then it just might not work, and then that adds more work for you in your second and third draft. So just, I really, really do recommend outlining, and it does not have to be detailed. It can just be some bullet points on a paper. I mean, here, let me just grab mine. This is what mine looks like. There's some points on the paper, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and I just do that for the entire book. It's very simple, very basic, and honestly, I'll probably go back and change some of those points, but it just helps you get to where you need to be to know where your story's going, if that makes sense. So yeah, don't do what I did. Have a plan. Don't go back and edit while you're writing, and don't go back and reread while you're writing, because it's just going to discourage you, and you just really need to get that first draft down, because that is what's going to keep you going, and then you're going to be more likely to finish your book and actually publish. Okay, that's it for the video. It's kind of a short video, but I just wanted to address those few points. And if you like stuff like this, and if you'd like a more in-depth kind of version, or you have any other writing tips that you'd like to see, comment down below. Again, subscribe, because it would help me a lot, and I'll have some fun stuff. This is gonna be fun. I'll post every once in a while. I don't know how often. I post more on Instagram, but I'm a full-time college student, and I'm writing a book, and I have other, life things to deal with. So I haven't figured out a schedule for my postings yet, but I will announce that shortly. That way I can be consistent for you guys. But yeah, I hope you like this video. I hope it helps. And stay tuned for more fun book and writing stuff. Again, Carly Hoffman, signing off. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Hi! That sounds so weird.